Did you have to take any life on that deployment?
We had a partner nation force that had no intentions of killing their people at all, which started kind of raising the hair on the back of our necks. And these guys wanted war. So I swivel the Mark 19 off to the side and I see the guys there. And they're aiming their guns at us now. And I hear this explosion. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. So he sent that same kid, who was like a 10-year-old, back out there to dig up the IED. And when they did, it turned the older kid to spaghetti sauce. I was like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy.
Let's talk about your very first real-world operation. What was it?
Yeah. So a lot
In
of
Afghanistan.
Yeah, a lot of what we're doing was a lot of key leader engagement stuff, right? So if it wasn't the SOTIF kind of pulling the brakes on us, it was just the locals not doing what we asked them to do. So we had a town next to us called Machakel, and it was like a little hot town, and that's where the mortar teams were coming from. So our main goal of that deployment was to push in there and kind of rid that area of Taliban activity. And one of our first missions was to push in there and kind of do a probing mission. Luckily for me, I was on Overwatch this mission, but as we started pushing in, we realized, one, there's IEDs everywhere, and two, they were ready. So just like we had been watching them for the first, is probably about a month and a half before we start kind of doing our own thing, they were watching us. Very quickly, as the other element starts bounding in, they start taking RPGs, right? And we start realizing that if we push in any further, it's going to be problematic. And then as we're reporting up, they're pretty much calling us, telling us to stop, and we kind of had to back off of that. Right, so that was the first time we started pushing in and started noticing that things were real, right? Started taking fire and then taking RPG blasts, things like that.
You were, or your partner?
Our team was.
Your team was.
Yep. So we're partnered up. We had a team of ANASF that were Pashtun as well, right? So Pashtuns are real heavy in the Helmand River Valley, which became a challenge for us as well, realizing that we had a partner nation force that had no intentions of killing their people at all. Right, which became very tricky, right? Where we would try to get them to kind of push forward and do things, and they just wouldn't do it. They're very rebellious, pretty much, putting their foot down, and they were going to do what they wanted to do, and they wouldn't listen at all, which started kind of raising the hair on the back of our necks. We're like, this isn't good, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a very bad situation, and it just ended up getting so bad that we ended up kicking them off of our camp.
Holy shit. Okay, yeah. So right off the bat, you're getting real-world ops. You're getting lit up by machine gun fire and RPGs. You can't get to them. Your partner force isn't fucking doing what you're wanting them to do. You're worried about them turning on you. Mm-hmm. And there's not a great dynamic here.
Yeah, it got tricky and it got complex, right? And each time, every time we'd leave the wire, we'd come back and we'd have to circle up because they started getting sketchier and sketchier, man. They started getting sketchier and sketchier. We started arguing with them on ops and stuff because they wouldn't do what we're asking them to do. They would shoot people that didn't need to be shot, essentially. There was a situation within our area where they ended up shooting a disabled person. And that ended up being kind of the line in the sand where we're like, hey, dude, you're out of control. You don't listen. We start rogering up to their Kandak and letting them know, like, hey, you got to get these guys off our camp. And the next thing I know, Sean, they start carrying their guns to the Chowha. The posture changed on the camp to the point where we're like, they're going tomorrow, right? Don't let them know, but we're sending a bird in, and they're getting off our camp tomorrow because it just got so sketchy.
Holy shit!
Oh, yeah.
How fast did this happen?
This was in probably the first 2 months we were there.
Was there any? Was there any talk about this during the turnover?
Not really. They got along well with Cody's team commander, but his team commander was a unique guy, and I'm not obviously wouldn't say anything about him, but let's just say him and Cody didn't see eye to eye. And that was pretty much once we showed up and we weren't willing to do the same things that he was willing to do, which is essentially bend the knee to those guys, there was conflict immediately.
Did they get him out of there?
The team commander?
Yeah, I mean, when you called in a bird.
Oh, sorry.
Did they...
For the ANASF? Yeah, they did. Yeah, thankfully they took it seriously. Yep, and very quickly they were out the next day.
So hold on. So what happens to the mission when the partner force is gone?
Yeah, you got to wait. Yep, you got to wait. Everything's put on hold because especially the rules at this time is that you weren't doing any solo ops, right? You had to do everything by, with, and through technically. And without that component or that capability, yeah, all ops are off. Outside of key leader engagements, the basics that you have to do in and out. But yeah, any operational type things are going to be stopped until you get another partner nation force.
And they just left.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to leave?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was going to be problematic.
Well, I think we've established that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, How long are your guys' deployments?
6 months usually.
6, and this happens right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are in this partner force?
Yeah. So it's probably around like 15 to 20 people at least. Maybe a
Well,
little
that's
bit more.
actually a lot smaller. I thought we were talking hundreds, to be
No,
honest.
no, no, not this. On the other side of the fence, there was hundreds, right? But for our organic team, it was like it mirrors an MSOT.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was actually, I don't know if I should share this story, but we're here, right? But I was in charge of the interpreters, so I was kind of the terp manager, and I wasn't too sure right now. Like things got really bad where people like pretty much drawing down guns on each other between us and the ANASF. And they told me, they said, Steve, you got to vet the interpreters. And I was like, okay, because they live on our camp too. So I circled them up and I was like, this is kind of crazy. But I set them down and I was like, hey, I need to know that you're not on their side. And they're like, no, sir, we're not. We're not on their side. I was like, well, I really need to trust you. And I don't trust you, right? Because you guys just let this get weird. Right? You knew that these guys, you hear what they're talking about and you didn't come to us, right? And I can't say that I trust you, right? And I don't trust people, like we don't have any room for no trust on this camp.
Yeah, they're the only in between. They're the
Yeah.
only communication in between the two units. And if they didn't articulate, they let the situation develop to that
Oh
point.
yeah, they knew. And they're going there and they're smoking hash with them every night. They're good old buddies, right?
So what did that do to operations then for the rest of the deployment?
Yeah, so we got another team. Yep. So very quickly, they knew there's no point in us being up there, and they got us a team pretty quick. The new team that we got were Tajiks, so they're from Tajikistan. So they had like Mongolian blood in them, and these guys wanted war. And the Tajiks at the time hated the Pashtuns, so they were happy to be in the helmet, and they were ready. They had no qualms about whooping it on. So then from there, it became us like things are starting to get out of control in a better way. Oh yeah. So now we're like having to pull the reins back on them because we try to write something up to go outside the wire, and the SOTF's like, no. And they're like, we're going. And they would go. And we're like,
No shit.
Yeah, we're like, go play. And they started whooping it on. They were there within a week. They were already over in Machakel whooping it on. Like we had to sit back on that one and watch because the SOTF wasn't going to let us push with them. But like it started shaping things in a big way. And they'd come back and they were happy as can be. Yep, and the whole game started changing, right?
Let's talk about the first operation that you went on with the new force that got kinetic.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be pushing back into Machakel, right? So pushing back into that region where last time we kind of got stopped short with RPGs and things like that. We pushed up to a very similar spot to where we were before as the forward line of troops, but they actually pushed in. So as they pushed in, they start shaping the battlefield and pushing everybody else out to the side. And they were kind of on containment on the backside, and just dudes were squirting out the back, trying to get back to the Ghana Marie's Bazaar and Zamindawar and all those areas. And they just went in and just started death blossoming and just really whooping it on. But that was the first time when we pushed out with them where we realized like, oh, this team's different. Like this is going to be a totally different 6 months from here on out.
How did that feel for you guys?
It was good. It was very good, and we're happy. But also it raised red flags at the SOTA. So now they're like, oh, now we got to watch that team, right? This team's thinking they're going to be out there fighting this war, trying to win this war. Like, how dare them, like, try to go out there and do what we brought them here to do. So it kind of tightened things up a little bit more on us, which is why we had to get more strategic with how we, like, kind of, yeah.
So what were you guys doing? How did you get strategic to get the ops?
Yeah, well, it's just small things like the special activities side of the house, right? Really building alliances within the community, really figuring out who is on our side, not on our side, and employing people outside of maybe our organic team to get things done.
Nice.
Right. And there were people out there, like they were tired of it. Right. The Taliban had been ravaging that area for quite some time, and it didn't take long for us to start finding some key players in the area, and they were willing to do some really cool stuff for us.
I mean, what kind of key players are you talking about? Are you talking about key players within the special operations community? Or are you talking about key players within the Afghan community that are going to allow operations to happen in their backyard?
Yeah, within the local nation populace. Yep. People where we would do little things like a humanitarian aid thing, where we'd go and hand out backpacks. Right? There's a little area called the Garmob Curve that was very, very dangerous. Right? It was just kind of a choke point in the road heading south towards Helmand. and anyone that kind of got, all these big trucks, supply trucks would have to do multi-turn maneuvers to get through there, and they would just get lit up all the time. So we go down and hand out backpacks in the area, right? To do present patrols. We want to whoop it on. So we're just being a bit provocative as well. We're like, hey, we're here, hand out backpacks. Like, what's up now? Right? You want to pick on the Army and the route clearance teams. Like, what you got? Right? But while we were down there, we'd start engaging with the population. And me as a corpsman, which also had some extra training, the special activities training that I got to do when I was there, I'd pull people aside and start talking to them. They'd come up with a rash or something, and I'd start interviewing them. I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I'm the secretary for the district governor. It's like, oh, that's interesting, right? It's like, I'm more than happy to give you whatever you need, but we would start finding people that way, right? And within that, we'd start finding people that were, sympathizers for what we were doing. They were kind of tired of it. Maybe their brother-in-law or somebody rolled over an IED and they were pissed off about it. And we'd start finding people that were hungry and they wanted to help. So even though we couldn't be as kinetic as we wanted to be at times, we maximized that time to find sympathizers and start kind of working them towards getting some of the stuff done that we needed from them.
So you guys are probably also gathering quite a bit of intelligence through this too.
Yeah, that actually became a big shift. So as like the leadership in the region started to tighten down things for us, we just shifted focus towards more of an intelligence type side of the house.
Right on, man.
Yep.
How hairy did it get on this deployment?
Yeah, honestly, I felt fine the majority of the time. Like the scariest parts I had was just, having to deal with a partner nation force, but I never really felt too scared. Right, a lot of the work that we were doing was at distance, right? So I never really felt like, I wasn't, engaging people 5 feet away or anything like that. It felt pretty predictable and pretty controllable for most of the time.
What was it like coming home from that deployment? You're married now.
Yeah.
With a kid.
Yeah. So I'm married with a kid, and I came back and I was different, man. I was different.
What changed you?
I think it was the high stress, to be honest with you. I say it kind of like it was fine, but day in and day out, I think that was the biggest part, was the stress. It was just the stress and not being able to sleep well at night, right? Just dealing with the bureaucracy, right? Added another level of stress where it's like, we know exactly what we need to do, and if you just let us do it, things will work. But then they're just making, how it is. They're making policies from higher that don't make sense with the ground force, and it just puts a lot of pressure on you. And I think just kind of coming back from that, that's where like the insomnia stuff started to happen, having the warrior dreams that we like to say, right? And things like that. And then that's when I think I probably just started hitting the bottle more than I ever had at that point.
Did you take any losses on this deployment?
Yeah, we did not. So our team did not.
So this is kind of, if you don't mind, what I'm receiving from you.
Audio Jungle.
Good deployment, not terribly kinetic.
Yep.
Most of the kinetic stuff was with the partner force. A lot of paranoia from the previous partner force. So you got to see some shit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And just enough to give you a taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just enough to kind of see what it is. I felt like I checked the box in a lot of ways. It was good enough. It's always hard to kind of ride the coattails of the Fallujah guys and all this stuff, but I felt like I was there. Yeah, we got to whoop it on a few good times, and I got to do some. Got to check the medical box too. I got to do a crike.
You did? Okay, so you did. You were in combat.
Yeah.
You were in combat, or you were.
Yeah, for
Let's hear
sure.
it.
Yeah, so one of the trips down to the Garmov curve that I was telling you about, we received some fire and a guy ended up getting shot in the head. One of the partner nation force guys. So we had to evacuate him off the X essentially there. We bring him back up to our site where we had a battalion aid station. And I went in there and we had to patch him up so we could get a bird in. And in that, I got to do a cricothyroidotomy on him, which this sounds kind of morbid and crazy, but for a medic, that's like hard to come by, right? It's like
you guys are always fucked up.
Yeah.
Establish that right now.
Yeah. Well, it's like, like you come from 18 Delta and you learn all these things and it's like you kind of want to do them, right? So I was very fortunate, right? He's had an obtunded airway and he was in an obstructed airway and he was not able to breathe. So I was able to do a crike, work that whole process with him and get him evacuated. Then we had some other casualties as well. And I think probably to answer your question and what you just asked, the parts that changed me were these things, right? It wasn't the kinetic stuff, it was the medical stuff.
Okay.
You know, we were doing a mission one day where we were pushing down to the district governor and we're kind of had our guns facing Machikel, that area. And I see these guys out there digging. And we already know what that means, right? They're digging an IED, they're putting it on the route going in, and you know, with anticipation that we're going to move from this meat site to push in. And I see it, and I end up pulling out my binoculars, and I'm on the roof with a guy. Actually, on this deployment too, I carried a Mark 48, so I carried the Mark 48 machine gun in a med bag, which is a little non-conventional. But I'm up on the roof, and I see him, and actually Jake was there too from singing. And I look through, and I see these guys digging, and I realize it's some kids. So I'm like, all right, we're not going to engage these kids. We're just not going to go that direction. And if we do, we're just not going to go right there where I see it. So just marked it. All right, cool. That's where the ID is. But after the meeting, we said, now we're going to head back to camp. So we ended up pushing back from that meat site back to the camp. And it's probably 45 minutes to an hour later, we hear an explosion. So I'm actually working out and I hear this explosion and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And next thing I know, we start getting calls, right? A few minutes later after that, they bring that kid. So what happened was the Taliban said, okay, they didn't go that direction. Go get our IED now. So he sent that same kid, it was like a 10-year-old and maybe like a 7-year-old, back out there to dig up the IED. And when they did, it turned the older kid to spaghetti sauce. And the other kid that was next to him, his little brother, took a lot of shrapnel, was injured. So they ended up bringing both of them to us, one's in a wheelbarrow and the other one's still alive. So we ended up getting to take the kid in. So as we take the kid in, we start patching him up. He had some sucking chest wounds and things like that. Me and Chris, my A/, are just rocking and rolling on it, business as usual. But the kid's suffering pretty badly. So this was actually the first time I got to use ketamine as an anesthetic to start working with him and give him the ketamine, start patching him up. He's really mangled and he starts kind of snoring. He's like in a decent spot. So I was like, wow, that worked better than I imagined, right? My first time pushing ketamine. But then next thing I know, I hear my team captain talking to the dad, right? And the dad was yelling at us, demanding money from us, right? Demanding money that we pay him because his son got injured. And I remember I lost it, Sean. I lost it. I walked away from his son. I went out there and grabbed the dude and slammed him. I was like, this is your fault. Like, you did this to him, right? Because a little bit of me was like, here's these adults. Another kid got hurt because of some piece of crap adult, right? And you want to talk about money. And that's what you're thinking. You want to try and get money off of this, right? So I end up screaming at this guy. The team captain's like grabbing me. And I'm like, get him out of here. Get your son and get out of here, right? We ended up calling in a bird for the kid. It wasn't his fault, but that's like a little bit of that, dude, where it's just started to kill me a little bit inside. Started to get a little bit numb about what we were doing and just the consequences of war, to be honest with you, where I was like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy. Yeah.
What was it that made you think, what are we doing here?
Just seeing the civilian impact, right? That would become a theme as I made, more trips back to Afghanistan. It's like, it was hard to ignore that part, right? It's hard to ignore just seeing the suffering, man. Seeing the little kids, seeing the tough living conditions. And I'm not saying they're better now that we're gone, but I knew it was hard for me to not acknowledge that I was participating in something that was hurting a lot of people. No matter how good we tried to spin it, there was a lot of people that suffered because of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Did you have to take any life on that deployment?
Yeah, I was, I didn't until we started moving south. So I was in the lucky, but I would call it unlucky group that my element seemed to be the white cloud and the other element was the dark cloud. So everywhere they went, they started, they always drew fire and I always happened to just be the guy doing Overwatch or whatever it may be for the majority of it. But as we were pushing south, so we started this initiative at the end where they said, you know what, we're actually just going to start demilling the Helmand River Valley. And we were at the very north part. So our job was to start demilling the site, right? Getting accountability of everything and start tearing things down. And we were going to turn it over to the Afghans. So as part of that process, we had to kind of push our way down. And we were like this, providing the security bubble as we demilled down. And we'd hit each VSP site. They'd demill their stuff and they'd hop in. And we just started this slow multi-day caravan through the Helmand River Valley, hitting all these different sites, picking them up. And as we started heading down south, we got past that Garmob curb down in Upper Sangin. They started noticing. They started rogering up, letting the Taliban know we were on the move. We were growing a bigger caravan by the day, so it was like a great target for them. And along that journey, we started getting ambushed, and that's when I first got to engage some guys and take them out.
Do you want to describe that?
Yeah, I mean it's not the craziest sexy stuff, right? But it was just
But it's the first one.
yeah. And we're kind of pushing through, and the IED threat's huge. So that's our biggest fear, is that we're trying to move through, and we're doing it at a snail's pace because none of that stuff moves fast, as you know. And it's like you're kind of just sitting and waiting, and everywhere you look's like potential boogeymen, right? You're in Indian country, and it's like everyone's around you, and we're just kind of creeping through. And I remember we're kind of sitting there. I'm trying to stay awake, right? And I'm on the Mark 19, which is a grenade launcher. And I'm kind of sitting there, and next thing I know, the vehicle in front of us, which was actually an A&A vehicle, starts getting lit up. And at first I was a little bit confused about what's going on. I'm like, are they test firing their guns? Like, why would they test fire their guns right here in the city, right? It was like actually a built up area. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, that's incoming. That's not outgoing. So I swivel the Mark 19 off to the side, and I see the guys there, right? They're probably about 20 yards away, and they're aiming their guns at us now. And they got rockets, and I just light them up with a Mark 19, and just immediately they were just neutralized, I would say. And that was kind of the end of that right there.
How did that feel?
I mean, exciting. Yeah, to be honest with you, it was exciting.
Accomplished?
Yeah, as morbid as it sounds. Yeah, it did. It's like, okay, like I checked that box, and then it was back to business.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.